For today's history video, I'd like to talk about an event that happened today on October 14th, 1912, when Theodore Roosevelt was almost assassinated while giving a speech. It's one of the most extraordinary stories from American history. My friend Clayton Leota, who films these videos, suggested that I do that and look back in history to what happened on this day. So I'm going to do that for a while and see how it works out. In 1912, Theodore Roosevelt had been out of office as president for 4 years. He took office in 1901 after McKinley's assassination, was re-elected in 2004, and in 2008 left office. And he left it in the hands of William Howard Taft, who was really his designee for president. But the relationship between the two of them soured. You can read about that in Doris Kearns Goodwin's really good book about that. And in 1912, Roosevelt sought the Republican nomination to defeat Taft. And he entered the primaries against Taft and beat him in every one. And when he went to the convention, the bosses who controlled the bulk of the votes ignored the primaries and nominated Taft and rejected Roosevelt. So Theodore Roosevelt walked out of the convention, took his supporters with him, and announced he was going to run on a new political party that he called the Bull Moose Party, because of his Western roots. And as a Bull Moose candidate, he campaigned vigorously and articulated a program for the left that far transcended anything he did as president, and really staked out in American politics for the first time much of the agenda that came to be the core of the New Deal. On October 14th, while he was campaigning in 1912, he was giving a speech in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when a saloon keeper shot him in the chest. And the bullet penetrated a 50-page manuscript that he had in his pocket for a new speech. It would have been a hell of a long speech. And his eyeglass case, which was metal, and penetrated into his chest. Roosevelt, having been in wars and had extensive experience with wounds, realized in a moment that he was not seriously or mortally wounded because he wasn't coughing up blood. So he announced to the crowd that he had been shot and that there was a bullet in his chest, but that he was going to continue and deliver his speech. And he did. He spoke for 45 more minutes. And the drama of that performance captured the American imagination 3 weeks before Election Day. It was an incredible performance. He then, at his leisure, went to the hospital, and the doctors said that it had not penetrated deep in his chest, but it was so deep that they couldn't remove it. There would be more risk in removing it. So they left it in, and it remained in his body until he died, not 7 years later. What an incredible story. But the legacy of the Bull Moose Party was a solid consensus in America for progressivism and for change, and to bring about things like workers' comp, unemployment insurance, Social Security, health care, and a whole variety of moves of that sort. In the election of 2012, Roosevelt outpolled the Republican Party. William Howard Taft, the incumbent president and the Republican candidate, finished third. Woodrow Wilson's finished first, capitalizing on the split between Roosevelt and Taft. Wilson was the Democratic candidate. But Roosevelt finished first and Taft finished second, and Taft finished third. The only time that's ever happened in American politics, that the candidate of the major party finishes less than second. It was incredible as an achievement for a great man. Roosevelt then went to Africa and to South America on voyages of exploration and discovery, and his bent for naturalism led him to all kinds of expeditions. But on one of the expeditions in South America, he got sick, and the illness eventually killed him in 1919 or 1920. Roosevelt was by then the consensus Republican nominee for president in 1920 to succeed Woodrow Wilson. But after his death, of course, they had to look elsewhere, and they selected one of the worst presidents in history, Warren G. Harding. Thanks for watching.